About 2 years ago, sometime during the pandemic, I was doing a lot of free online open readings on Facebook Live. And a lot of people were asking me questions about love, their relationships. People all over the world, people in India, people in America. It was great. But there were a lot of questions about relationships. And in fact, sometimes it was everybody. Sometimes it was 100% of the session. How does he feel about me? Will we get married? Is he the right one? Is he seeing someone else? It was mainly women asking. And I was using tarot and it was all going fine, but I thought I really wanted to sort of like offer my queerance something a little bit extra. So I looked around for a love oracle. Now, I don't often use oracle cards. I'm a real tarot reader. And so I should have known better. I looked around and I found a lot of oracle cards as far as I could see online. A lot of the love oracle cards were a bit a bit like fortune cookies. You have cards and you pick a card and it says, he loves me, or he wants to call but he's shy, or he's not ready yet, or he's your soulmate, or he might not be your soulmate. And it just feels a bit like spinning the bottle. It feels a bit sort of teenage. So I noticed that Lo Scarabeo had a thing called I Ching of Love. And I thought, I Ching. I Ching is a serious book. I Ching's a serious oracle. I'm not an I Ching reader myself, but I've used it and I appreciate it, that it's a book of great wisdom. And here is someone who apparently has combined I Ching with love oracles. So what will there be not to like in this deck of cards? And I'm here to tell you exactly what was not to like. I'm about to give this away to a friend. I bought two decks from Lo Scarabeo. And in both cases, they've been so badly produced that I find them unusable. And in both cases, I'm giving them away. And the other one was the 1JJ Tarot, that classic old one with Juno and Jupiter. Nicely produced, but the cardstock was so slippery the cards would just like ping, splish out of your hands and spray across the room. Had to give it away. The book's quite nice, by the way. And the box is sort of like nicely produced, unlike the cards. I feel a bit cheated about that because when you see the box, like for example, if you saw this in the shop, you would think, oh, what a nicely produced production. What high production values, how nice everything is. And then you get to the book and, oh, still fairly nice, but you haven't seen the cards yet. This says artwork by Ma Nishavdo and text by Swami Anand Videha. In this book, you get English, Italiano, Espanol, Francais, Portuguese, and Russian. The English is not good, it's quite brainy. It's obviously written by an educated person, but not a native English speaker. And I think it's just, again, it's sad that tarot publishing is always sort of like second best, isn't it? Mainstream, mass market tarot publishing tends to be a bit cut price, doesn't it? They could have paid a native English speaker a couple of €100 to point out the moments in this book that are just absurd. Hexagram 37, a family. And actually many of these paragraphs are kind of incomprehensible, even though they appear to be in correct English. You're not really sure what it's about. I think that's partly to do with the project, but just listen to this English here. This hexagram speaks of the family. It is the voice of a son who complains about the fate of his mother, once a tender branch, now a thorny faggot from the effort of raising ungrateful children. Now, nobody whose native language was English would write a paragraph like that because the word faggot mainly is now a derogatory word for gay man. It used to mean firewood, but because gay men were burnt at the stake with firewood, so a gay man was a faggot. I would say the majority of native English speakers don't even know that a faggot means firewood. So here we have his mother, once a tender branch, now a thorny faggot, from the effort of raising ungrateful children. This book is written by an intelligent culture person with a background. It comes from the Osho camp. It is Osho philosophy. In other words, pro-relationship, pro-sex, very pro-meditation and pro-mindfulness. It's coming from a very cultured place and it has nice ideas in it for mindfulness and for going inside and contacting yourself. And the first few pages of the book, before it gets on to, the I Ching of love, are fine. But I'm going to do a flip through. I don't want to bore you, so you'll get the flip through. And while I'm flipping through, I will talk about what I consider to be the concept of this deck. And you'll be able to see the cards for yourself. And I will make some grumpy comments about the cards. And then it'll all be over in a few minutes. Okay, so here we see the concept of this deck. It's the I Ching of Love. There are 64 cards. Each card is a hexagram. Each card has a number on it, and each card has a little name. Here we see the cards called Family. This one's called A New Beginning. 62 is called Identifications. Now I'm going to break it down into different elements here because I think there are different elements and they're all sort of rammed together. First of all, we would ask ourselves, is this a good idea in the first place? To try to adapt the I Ching and turn it into a love oracle. Here we go, liberation, under pressure, failure. As I say, what you get from this is a rather silly, for want of a better word, collection of fortune cookies. What we are instructed to do in the book is basically just to draw one card, and that's your oracle for the day. You know, you've got a love problem, you shuffle the cards, you clear your mind or whatever you do, and off you go. Now clearly you've got the choice. You either look at these cards, which is probably your best bet, and allow yourself to be intuitive about what's going on, or you consult the book. I think the book, even though it comes from a good place, is kind of a bit pointless. I think basically the effort of trying to extract a love oracle out of the I Ching is just a big effort, and it's not remotely successful. 33, deception. Something is causing love to run away. In fact, that energy is retreating, folding back on itself to protect itself. It cannot do otherwise. In short, you will be exhausted and you won't even see the shadow of love anymore. So that's a bad omen there. The cards basically fall into three different types. There's good omen, bad omen, and just some rather nothingy phrase which doesn't really help you very much. For example, here's an example of one that doesn't really say anything much. A terrifying abyss is accompanied by an insurmountable peak. There seems to be no way out. The danger is accompanied by paralysis. A means must be found to indirectly overcome these obstacles. What to do? It is time for meditation and awareness. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it is always time for meditation and awareness. You didn't really need an oracle to tell you that. Some of them are horrendous. Here's an example of a sort of thing that I don't think you should ever encounter in an oracle deck. Intimate meeting. The oracle is a warning. If such an intimate and profound encounter is linked to simple seduction of a man or a woman, catastrophe is certain to follow. So imagine, you come for a reading, maybe you even pay someone to pull one of these cards for you, and the oracle says catastrophe is certain to follow. I think that's pretty negative. Anyway, let's go on with my flip through. So that was me dealing with the basic concept of this deck, forcing the I Ching to become a love oracle. The next element is the designs of the cards. Look, we've stopped on quite a nice one, haven't we? A tiger. I'm very puzzled by these cards. The design seems to have no center. So you have pleasant prettiness in about a quarter of them. You have surrealism raising its pretty head in about half of them. Sometimes it goes as far as turning into Magritte. And you have Art Deco, don't you, coming in some of them. Bit more surrealism. So I think on a design level, again, sort of dream pictures, a cloud here, half in, half out of the window. I think the basic design is all over the place, though, there are some of the cards that are quite pretty. Now we go to the question of graphic design. I would guess that the person who drew the pictures or painted the pictures didn't actually put this deck together. I have an objection here, really. I think that the way each card is composed, framed, is fairly frightful. We have these distressed sort of ink splatter frames, not even a frame, just going up and down the sides. So there's room for the number and room for the name of the card. No in love there. The cactus says no to the lotus, apparently. I think black frames at the best of time are a bit dodgy. This one is particularly frightful. And then my final question about this deck is, how on earth did it manage to get so badly scanned? Now, since I bought this deck, and I saw it with my own eyes and I was horrified by it, by the poor quality of the scanning, since I bought this deck, I have actually managed to acquire, by fair means or foul, a new phone. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we are now entirely in focus here. But what I want to tell you here is that you could have the best phone in the world, the most highly defined camera in the world, but I could not, even with that best camera in the world, show you these cards in such a way as to make up for the scanning. It looks like it was scanned in the 80s and someone found an old floppy disk of the scans in someone's attic and said, oh, we can make that into a deck of cards and sell it online and everyone will be happy. Look, the elephant's quite nice, isn't it? I don't really call this dreamy. I call it murky and woolly. My phone is actually doing its best to increase the contrast here and make these images acceptable to you, but actually what I want to tell you is that in real life it looks worse than it looks in this video. I mean, my poor phone can't even find anything to focus on here because there's nothing crisp in the image. But that is sort of what it looks like, and we are required to pay, $24 for this. My friend who originally saw me briefly review this in an earlier video rather likes it, and I'm going to post it to her in the post, and she's going to be very pleased, and it's going to thrill her querents, and everyone's going to be happy. It's just me that's an old grump, isn't it? Look, that's the suffering card. You ask the oracle and you get the answer suffering. And I don't think the I Ching hexagrams themselves are nearly that, black or white in what they say. They're much more ambiguous. Here's another one. And I think even if you're a fan of this deck, you have to admit that image is not crisp. Look, you've got crisp writing there, and that's the image. I actually suspect that when the artist did these images, there was a certain kind of stylishness about them. Yes, they're a bit dreamy. Yes, they're a bit sketchy. That's fine. That's what art is. But I think the artist has not been served well by the production department. And I personally wouldn't give you tuppence for this deck. So that's me talking about the I Ching of Love, available from Lo Scarabeo. Hope you enjoyed the summer. I'm enjoying it, and I'll see you later. Bye.